home, it's nice, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But then, I want to be an actor, and it was just always kind of a little bit too small for me. The acting community isn't really there. And so like it just was, yeah, it was too small. It was too like there's no opportunities there. While there is like a lot of nature and a lot of beautiful aspects, it's not where I want to be full time.
Welcome to the Flipstoration Podcast, where we talk shop, discuss business, and share our stories. Whether you are brand new to flipping furniture as a side hustle, a seasoned professional furniture restorer, or simply someone who loves podcasts, there's room for you at our table. Welcome to the Flipstoration Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Flipstoration Podcast. I'm your host, Gary, and today I have a special guest. She is an actress, an author, a furniture flipper. And one thing I love about her work is she's not afraid to take risks and do things that are a little bit bolder. I love that. I don't think enough people do that, so that's awesome. But I'm just happy to invite or welcome Marissa Godinez. I'm sorry. Godinez. Sorry.
There you
Godinez. Go. I have a name that everyone gets wrong too. I apologize. Godinez. So we're excited. We have a lot to cover. But first of all, I wanted to say you live in Georgia now, but I believe I read you're not from Georgia originally. So where were you from originally?
So originally I am from Hawaii, and then I moved from Maui to Los Angeles, and I lived there for like 7 to 8 years. And from, pandemic happened, scattered everyone. And so we moved back in with my partner's parents, and just to save money and all that. And then we just ended up staying.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And do you plan like that's going to be long term, or is that just sort of for now? What do you think?
I think Georgia's pretty long term. Yeah, thoughts always enter the head of moving back, and we miss LA a little bit with our friends and everything there. But we've kind of made a home base here, and we're comfortable here now, and we have a home and everything. So it's
You've settled.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny where you end up sometimes. I'm still living in my hometown, which I never thought would ever happen. I always imagined that I would get as far away from here as possible, but just comes, my wife and I found a house in this town, and we're here, and it's just funny. I never thought that we would still be here, but you just settle and you make life. So
yeah,
I totally get that.
Where are you guys located?
What's that?
Where are you guys located? Like
we're in Connecticut, so we're up northeast. So yeah, we're up there. Always wanted to visit Hawaii, so that's on my bucket list. We would love to check that out. My in-laws went there about a year ago, so they loved it. They loved visiting. It's supposed to be very beautiful. So do you miss it at all? It's a totally different environment, I'm sure, than Georgia.
Yeah, it definitely is for sure. I do miss it, like when I haven't been away, or when I have been away from it for a long time, and then I go back, it's like, home, it's nice, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But then, I want to be an actor, and it was just always kind of a little bit too small for me. The acting community isn't really there. And so like it just was, it was too small. It was too like there's no opportunities there. While there is like a lot of nature and a lot of beautiful aspects, it's not where I want to be full time at all. So
I can imagine it's you're limited to what you have access to. Obviously, there's areas of the country that have a lot of opportunity, a lot of competition. Also, a lot of sometimes it's saturated, but I'm sure that it probably did have some limitations too. Were you ever flipping furniture in Hawaii, or no? Was that
no?
Okay.
So I haven't flipped furniture for very long, honestly. Like in the grand scheme of things, I only started about 4 years ago during the pandemic, and or 3.5. Yeah.
And what got you into? The pandemic, obviously, but was there anything that, like, what made you select that as like something to do with your time and put your energy into?
Yeah. So I actually, pandemic boredom. I was going down the rabbit hole on YouTube, and I was looking for actually like home flipping stuff. And so I was like, trying to find just home renovations and all that sort of stuff. And then one thing led to another, and I found furniture flipping. And I started watching the process a lot and finding it really satisfying. And I was like, wait, this is something I could do.
Yeah, right.
like woodworking and everything, it kind of runs in my family a little bit because my grandfather was a really good woodworker, and then my uncle, he is like so talented. He built this wood fence that was just so intricate and beautiful in his own home, and it was just gorgeous. So it kind of runs in there.
Yeah,
So
it's in
it
the
was
blood
just like,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess it kind of like, I got the bug and wanted to do it, and it turns out I have a knack for it. So
yeah. I can
yeah.
relate to that. My grandfather was a kind of a carpenter more than a furniture person. My dad is what introduced me to furniture. So he started our business, our family business that I grew up in, and then it kind of just trickled down. Again, never thinking, just like the hometown thing. I never believed this was going to be what I would do forever.
Right.
I've said this before in other episodes, but I was, aspiring to be a musician. I was like this. I'm going to do music, and so I never thought woodworking would be or furniture refinishing would be my thing. But
Nice,
here we
nice.
are. So it's funny how that's
What
sometimes
instruments
changes.
do you play?
So yeah, your account is the Miss Flips. That's on Instagram, across social media. Is it all the Miss Flips? Yeah, cool. And we're gonna put that in the show notes so people can kind of follow you too and check out what you're doing. So that's what got you into it, the pandemic. And I think that's the story of a lot of people. I think that, I mean, we were all just slammed with like, where do you go? What do you do? I mean, I don't know how many hikes I took with my kids during the. I mean, I've never hiked more in my life. We were outside all the time. It was the only thing we could do. But yeah, so what keeps you going? I know that we're going to get to sort of some of what you aspire to do beyond this, but right now, what kind of gets you up in the morning and say, when you go out to the workspace, like what's that driving force?
I think it's different every day. Every single day it's different. I think there's pieces that I just truly get excited about and I'm like motivated to do them, or like certain parts of the project that I really like doing. And so sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's a desperate need for money. Sometimes it's just, you gotta do what you gotta do. You have a deadline that you gotta meet, and you promised your client that you would be done by this time or something like that, and so you're like, okay, I gotta hustle, I gotta push, because it's hard being self-employed. At least for me, it's of course different for everybody, but like for me, I have a really hard time self-motivating, and so like sometimes I dread it. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I have to do this today, like, no.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of difficult, but then other times I can't wait to get out there, and I'm so excited. Like right now I have a piece that's sitting out there that all I have to do is put some wallpaper on it and just reassemble it, because I had to take it all apart and put it back together again. And so I have to put some wallpaper on and I'm basically done. And
yeah.
so, like, I'm excited for that because it's like putting all the puzzle pieces together, and it's going to be really satisfying and fun and cool. And so, yeah, I think it's different every day.
Yeah, getting started is sometimes the hardest part because, I mean, often it's kind of the messiest part. It's kind of the least glamorous part, and
Right.
then you get towards the finish line and you start to see it come together, and it really almost drives you to that finish line to say, okay, I can see it now. It's what I had imagined is starting to take shape. I love that one of the things I see you do a lot of is you create these sort of mock-ups before you
Mm.
actually do the work, which not everyone does. I never did that. I wish I was more um, gifted in that way. It was always hard for me trying to get a client to understand my brain while I was talking to them because they couldn't. I always wish they could plug in and see it. But you do a really cool thing where you mock it up and sort of say, this is where I'm headed. What got you in that, like going in that direction where you started to sort of lay it out before starting?
Actually, like doing commissions, because like the clients would want to see something. They're like, oh, can I see a mock-up? And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to learn how to do a mock-up, So, and I did photography for a really long time, so I have Photoshop, I have Lightroom, I have all those things. So, like, doing a mock-up, I was like, okay, well, I can just go into Photoshop and do
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what I did. But it's funny because certain clients don't care. They're like,
right.
"Oh yeah, we'll be surprised. We trust you, yada yada." But then other clients are like, "No, I need this specific color. That's a shade too light. I need it in this shape or in this like angle or whatever. Like they're very, very specific. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the cool things I see you do a lot of is you work with these sort of lines and geometric patterns and angles and things like that, which I've seen a few other people do, but it's not I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like a very common thing. And it seems like it's a really cool way to take a piece and give it a whole different look. You see a lot of the same trends that people do over and over and over again. And it kind of gets, you get a little tired sometimes of seeing it all. What you do is not just the patterns, but you also use some really fun colors. Like they're not actually like super bold, but they're just interesting colors and the combinations of colors. So what got you kind of making that your direction? Because it seems like you do a lot of that. I don't know if that's primarily what you do, but it does seem like that's become your little voice in the world of flipping.
Yeah, it definitely has. And honestly, seeing those other flippers do that, like as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I need to do. Like that's what I want to do. So like yeah, those for I'm so inspired by those furniture flippers for sure. There's some really, really amazing, talented people out there that have been doing it long before I started. So I don't want to take credit for that design at all. But I think that I was drawn to it specifically because I used to draw in my like school books. So like I would just take up entire pages in my school books, just like drawing lines, like doing that exact thing. Whether they were like geometric or just kind of free flow, it was always like draw one shape and then base the entire rest of the page off of that one shape that I put. And so it's a style that I'm really drawn to for that reason.
Yeah, some of your designs, I'm trying to think of the one I saw not too long ago, but it reminded me almost, it just, to me, it just screamed like The Great Gatsby. Like it just had this really, I can't remember what it was, if it was there like a wet bar that you did or something like that? I forget.
I specialize in bars, so
Yeah,
like
okay.
yeah, most of them that I do that geometric kind of Art Deco design is from is
It just had
inspired.
that really, the Art Deco kind of era, but with that like kind of pop. It's not just like traditional Art Deco. It's got that, almost again, something out of a movie, which is probably, probably from your background and what you're aspiring to do. It's also probably some of that's kind of bleeding into the designs a little too, is almost more like a set piece that's a little bit like pops off the screen more than it's just, something that blends in.
Right.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, like I said, I see so many people doing different work. My work was more restorations. Most of the time people were like, just make it look like it does now, but better, like new. So there wasn't a ton of, once in a while you'd get those people that would say, hey, can we do something wild with this, do something different? But that wasn't my niche. So I appreciate what you're doing. Do you mostly client work, or do you source pieces and sell, or is it like what percentage combination do you think that is?
I think it's definitely about like 70-30 towards the commission side. I tend to be pretty lucky when it comes to like consistent commissions, consistent orders. And so yeah, I would say that the big Art Deco bar cabinets that you see me making over, like those specifically, most of them have been commissions. And then more of the simple stuff that you see me post on Instagram and things like chairs or like things that just haven't really been touched are like the things that make up the 30%, or like things that just require a simple restoration, or just like something simple, quick that I can do. And those are like my resale items that I just like buy, maybe do a little cleaning to, and then resell immediately. And so yeah, that's kind of what makes up the 30%, and then the 70% is spent on commissions.
And which out of those two do you tend to enjoy more? Do you have a preference? Like if you were able to do only one of those two things, do you have a preference?
For sure commissions, because it's just more fun, and it's reliable too, because like the money aspect, as much as you'd like to believe that money isn't everything and all that sort of stuff, like it definitely is something.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's motivation, but then also like you get to create something with someone. Like you get to use all of their influence and all of their their tastes and styles and create something for someone. And there's something really beautiful and satisfying about that I really love. And I just get to kind of be more free and do what is my style, like the style that I have created. Whereas, like, if I were to do that as a non-commission, it's kind of hard to sell something like that,
Yeah.
because one, you got to find a person that's willing to spend the money. Because people who aren't spending money on a commission, who aren't curating their own personal vibe, are typically less likely to spend that type of money, spend the money that it's worth. And so it's hard to find the right audience for those types of pieces outside of a commission.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just more fun. It's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I find, I mean, that was my whole business was pretty much commission based. I did a lot of work for resellers, so guys who are reselling these kind of higher end pieces. I would do the work for them, and I had just regular clients that were putting it in their own home and decor. But you're right. I mean, the dependability factor of when this is done, I'm getting money
Right.
is much better than when I'm done, I'm going to post this and I might wait 6 months before I get any money. Like
Exactly.
it's very, and you're limited because again, you're doing very unique designs and someone may jump on that immediately because they see it and love it. But on the other hand, it may sit because you just don't have the right eyeballs on it at that time. That's why a lot of people play it safe. There's a lot of those neutral tone furniture pieces, and because you're trying to, when you're reselling it in that way, make it appealing to just as many people as possible. So you're playing it really safe, which, as a creative person, which it seems that you are, it's hard to just play it safe and just do what you're told is the right thing to do. You kind of want to, pour yourself into it and let people kind of see your reflection in the piece you do. So I can totally understand that. So then you also, I said at the beginning that you're also an author now. You did a book, you wrote a book, you put it together. I haven't had a chance to actually look at it because you put it out only a few months ago now, or how long has it been since it?
A few months. I think I released it sometime in January. I'm not 100% sure on that, so I could be wrong. Don't fact check me, but I think it was around January that I put it out. And yeah.
Yeah, what inspired that? I mean, obviously, probably taking your knowledge and turning it into another potential income stream. But what was the inspiration behind it besides just that? Like, what was the reason for putting that together?
Yeah, I think it was more so just putting words down on paper, like instructions down on paper, because not everybody likes to watch a video and spend the time. And people like to go back and get really detailed, organized instructions, And it's actually part of a series, and I'm working on the second part of the series right now. It's, I think, going to be 3 books total. And they all break down they all break down parts of the process.
Yeah.
So there's one that goes into sanding, like proper sanding methods, breaking down that part, or stripping in general. And then there's one that goes into painting and the specific techniques on how to do that. And I thought it's not approachable for everyone to go to YouTube. People don't not everybody learns the same way. I'm a very kinesthetic and visual learner, so I like to see things and do things in order to learn it. But not everybody's like that. People need notes. People need things that lists are very a good way for people to learn. And so I was for those types of people, I wanted to put out something that was more fit for them. And so people didn't have to necessarily go back to my video, find that specific spot, or they think it's the right video, but then they realize that the part that they wanted to review was in some other video or something, it's not the video format is just not easy to re-reference. So I wanted something that someone could read time and time again and really learn and go back and reference certain parts to get what they're doing correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of video out there. It's a very overwhelming environment between social media, YouTube, all that. I mean, we put out videos all the time, and it's true. You'll put out a video that says something about one topic, and then it
Mhm.
gets buried under, 25, 30 other videos. And so now someone's asking you, well, how do I do this? And you actually addressed it, but now you have to like send them on this hunt to go find it. So it is nice when you have a reference to be able to say, okay, I know it's in here. Let me go to, whatever the chapter, the page, and you
Mhm.
can mark it and write thoughts. And the book itself, is it geared towards sort of like showcasing how you do your types of designs, or is it more just a generic, like this is how you flip furniture in any way, but or do you focus on like what you do more?
It's more generic. It's more instructional. Like I did a lot of research for this book. I actually learned a lot from the research that I did, and kind of started implementing it into my own work. And I made sure that everything in there wasn't just based off of my experience, it was based off of that research. And so I tried to get everything as factual as possible and not just based off of my own experience and my furniture flipping and all that.
Yeah.
Just so people had like the words or the instructions from like a reliable source. Like I didn't want to be like, "Oh, this is what I do, so this is the way you should do it."
Yeah.
I wanted to be like, "This is how professional woodworkers do things, and this is why it works." And so I like broke it down step by step on um how to flip a piece, how to get inspiration, how to find the right tools, how to find the process that works for you. Like it's very inclusive in that way and shows you different methods to do each thing as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we're gonna put a link for the book in the episode notes as well, so people can go back and take a look if they're interested in that too, because it sounds great. There is so much. This is again, it's funny because when my dad started his business, there was no access to anything. Like you had to either learn from someone in person, or you had to get a trade magazine, or you had to like there was just not access. Now with YouTube and with everything, there's so much access, and now it's filtering. Now it's like the job of filtering all of this information, because there's so much that is good, there's so much that is not good, and people kind of have to make a judgment call. And it's just so hard because, again, a lot of people like yourself have the story of, the pandemic is what kind of brought them into this world, and now they are trying to hone their skills, but they're just going around looking at all this information, and one person will say this and the next person will contradict that, and it's like, well, who's right? And sometimes it's not even about being right, sometimes it's just difference of opinion. I mean,
Definitely.
it's totally not a right or wrong thing. It's just this is one way and that's another way, and it's just that's how it is.
And people in the comments are the greatest example of that. My God, the way that I will get one professional, like one, quote
Yeah.
unquote professional person saying, like, you did that totally wrong, like, blah, 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 blah. And then another quote unquote professional will, like, reply to that comment and be like, no, actually, she was doing it pretty correct. And then you'll get, like, the middle ground where, like, yeah, you can do it that way, but this way is another way to do it. And so, like, you have like everything in the sun, like,
Yeah.
and every comment under the sun
Yeah.
to kind of verify what you just said.
Everyone's an expert. Everyone is, everyone's I mean, it's crazy. I feel bad because I do see the comments. I laugh, but I feel bad because, I mean, people try to carry, have a tough skin and take it. But when you pour yourself into something and you have people then come on and tell you that that color is awful, that technique you did with, like, it just drives me crazy, because it's like, it's like a flogging. It's just, sometimes it's I don't know what these people are doing, just sitting around waiting for posts to jump
Right.
on. But it's sad because, again, everyone has to learn. I have a baby at home and she's learning how to walk, and I'm not mad that she's not running yet. I'm not like, you're doing the running wrong. She's learning to walk, there's steps to growing. Like, so part of it is this journey that everyone has to go on, where mistakes are part of the schooling. I have done I mean, good Lord, I've done so many mistakes over the years. I mean, you do something and you come back the next day and the glue didn't set and your whole thing, or I mean, it's unbelievable what you can mess up, but then messing up one time teaches you something that's more valuable than anything else.
Yeah.
Then you can, so I think the best at any craft are those who are always not just, doing what they do, but when they mess up, they learn from it. They're always assessing every step. They're always trying to improve. So even if this is how they did it today, tomorrow they might not do it that way because they learned something. And so by that, the learning adjusts what they do. And I think that's important. It's kind of that humility of saying, I don't know it all ever. It's like, it's always the opportunity to learn something. And sometimes you learn by failing, sometimes you learn by someone sharing something. But yeah, that's cool. So that book sounds like it's a great tool for those who are trying to figure out some of the, kind of navigate through some of those questions. So I will definitely put that in the notes, and hopefully some people will check that out. But I wanted to talk to you too. This isn't really so much about flipping, but it's about you. You mentioned the actress, the being, getting into the acting, and you've been doing it, right? I don't know your story with that too much, so I'll let you take it and just kind of tell me where you've been and kind of what your hopes are there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting piece of the story.
So like I said, I started in LA. I mean, I've been acting forever, but I went to school in LA for acting, and kind of did the whole scene out there for a little while. Didn't strike into much luck there, but I did a couple of short films, indie films, all that. And then when the pandemic hit, I obviously moved here, and then I started getting involved in a lot of film communities here. And I got an agent out here and started getting represented, started getting bigger auditions. I booked a couple of commercials last year and a feature film, or actually 2 feature films. And then now I'm in the middle of actually doing the pre-work for a feature film that I'm filming at the end of July into early August that I'm super excited about. I hope I can tell you more or announce more a little bit into the future, but right now I can't really talk about it other than that. But yeah, and I'm I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a fun role for sure.
Cool. Yeah, so you had mentioned to me, this is when we were just talking before doing this, that the furniture flipping is not your end game, which is totally okay to, I think that's part of sometimes. I was thinking about that after we were having that little back and forth, that so many people think that they have to pick a path and just sort of like never leave it, like right. It's a forever thing, and sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes it's just stepping stones. It's not that you aren't sincere in what you're doing now. You love what you're doing now, but that you're also dreaming and moving towards something else. So
yeah, it was kind of a fun, because like with acting you need a free schedule, and that's why most actors, like the stereotypical job for an actor is a waiter, because they can ask for any amount of time off. They don't have to like stick to a rigid schedule. You can swap shifts with someone, like there's a lot of freedom in being a server. And you can make a lot of money to support yourself throughout that journey. And so that's kind of like the main job that people tend to go towards. But when I found furniture flipping, it was like finding like the gold mine of providing that freedom, because I work for myself now. I can make my own schedule. If I have an audition or if I book a gig, I don't need to call anyone. I don't need to reschedule anything. I can just have that freedom and know that it's mine, and know that I'm not compromising anything for it. And it's definitely a struggle. Running your own business is a struggle. It's not necessarily dependable all of the time, and it's challenging. There's a lot of dry spells that I go through. Like, it's so interesting. I don't know why this is, but I think that the summertime for me is always the slowest. And then the winter comes, or the fall time, and then all of a sudden all these commissions come in all at the same time. And I have like a hard time juggling all of them because there's so many. But then the summertime comes and it's really slow. So like, it's a challenging thing to do and try to make your sole income, but it's worth it because I get to pursue other things, because I get to have that freedom and have that ability to pursue my dreams, to pursue my goals. And also, it's a super fun way to do it too. Like, I really enjoy furniture flipping, and it's really satisfying and really rewarding. And so it's a nice trade-off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few things you said that just kind of strike a chord with me. Number one, I think that something that always drives me in life, and I try to help people, like, whenever I get a chance to, like, see it this way, but not everyone does. Freedom is more important than like financial success. Though we usually connect those two. We usually say finances equals freedom, but it's usually not. Sometimes it's not that way. You know, sometimes it's someone working 80 hours a week, making a bunch of money, occasionally doing some pretty cool things, but most of the time just completely tied up in something that may not even be giving them joy on a day-to-day basis. So freedom is different. Freedom is, you know, when you're able to actually, you know, wake up every day happy with what you're doing, no matter what it is, and know that you're moving forward towards something. And it also is this idea of like planting seeds. I think sometimes people quickly, they put themselves in a position simply because of the demand of what life demands of us. So you have to pay your bills. So you just take on something that's kind of miserable, and you put yourself there because it's a means to an end. But there's something about taking a season and just planting seeds that will eventually grow into what you're hoping your life will look like.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people don't reflect enough on like who they really are and what really, you know, gives them life when they wake up and they just go, man, I love doing this. And it's not always one thing. It's not always the same thing. Like for you found it in furniture flipping is gives you some of that. But then when you get to go on set and do a role in some, like that also does that. So you kind of find those things that really feed your soul and you go, this is what I need to be doing. And if I can make enough to live, that's great. And live a simple, that's fabulous. If I can be rich someday, that's even better. But that's not the drive. The drive is kind of that fulfillment in yourself. But so, yeah, I can totally understand it. And the furniture flipping is one of those things where it's like, it does give you that freedom. I had a guy working for me who was a musician back in the day. And that was why he loved working for me, because anytime he needed he was out for a gig, I could be like, yeah, take the day off, go do what you gotta do, because you need flexibility. I mean, you have to be able to answer those calls. If someone says, hey, we got a part that's available, can you come audition? You've got to be able to drop what you're doing and go. And not every job gives you that flexibility. Yeah, so that's cool. So that's where you're headed. And what's neat too is I think, the tools that you've acquired and now you're sharing with other people, they're tools that they don't go away. Like sometimes, around the house, I need a tool to do one job. I buy it, I use it one time, I put it in the toolbox, but I know I have it now. And the next time I need it, it's there. And so some of the tools that you've accumulated, they're not, it's not a waste of time. It's not like you're never going to use them again. They're those tools you accumulate over life that you can help others with and also pick up whenever you need to.
Definitely. And like the skills that you learn for furniture flipping apply to other things. Like I never thought that I would be able to build my own custom closet, but now I have my own custom closet because of furniture flipping. I was able to put open shelves into my kitchen because of furniture flipping. And there's so many skills like repairs around the house that I can make now without having to pay anyone, because one, I know how to do it, but two, I have the tools for it. So like you were saying, like it's things that kind of never go away, that like it's skills and tools that never go away that you can apply to your own life and to your own home, to other people's homes for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure. And what's cool is anytime you take on something, especially like you did, where you weren't in it, you kind of dove into it and you didn't necessarily know everything yet. You kind of started from scratch. There's something about building confidence in yourself that it just proves to you that you can take on something you don't know and you can do it. Anyone can do it. I hate when I hear people talking and they limit themselves and they don't think that they're capable, or they make every reason under the sun that they can't do. I don't have the right tools. I don't have this. I don't have that. And so they never start. And sometimes it's like, no, there's so much you can do. And once you do one thing, your confidence like meter goes up just a few notches. And then it keeps going up, and it feeds you in every part. Now it's not just I'm confident in flipping furniture, but it's I'm confident in shelves in my kitchen. I'm confident in, hey, I might tear my bathroom apart and remodel it myself. You start to like have that confidence where you say, I did that I never thought I could do.
Right.
Well, that means I must be able to do some other things too. So it's a really valuable, like, just personal growth thing to just build that confidence in all these little things that we take on. So yeah, that's cool. So we're gonna wrap up soon, but I wanted to ask you if you had any, like I always say, is there like one nugget of wisdom? We'll use the big W word, wisdom. Is there something that you have learned, whether it's a technique or a mindset, something that you think you would want to share with everyone who's listening, just sort of a kind of to take home, that little nugget?
There's two things that actually apply to everything. Well, the first one does. Just start. Like you said, the hardest part is starting, and that is something that I have, like, that's the advice that I give, whether it's for acting, whether it's for furniture flipping. Like, it's something that I've said in multiple interviews, multiple podcasts, where I'm like, just start, because that's always the hardest part. And once you start, you'll find that it's so much easier to keep going than you ever thought it would be. Like, in the mornings when I'm dreading going out there, I tell myself, like, just start. You know that once you're out there, you're going to get like a million more things done than you ever thought. So just get out there, and then you'll find the motivation. And so that would be my first little nugget. And then second little nugget is the old tried and true, don't sweat the small stuff. There's so, like you were saying, there's so many people who are going to hate what you're doing, regardless of how you do it, regardless of what you do with it. So just ignore that. Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you satisfied. Do the process or the style or whatever it is that you want to do that brings you joy. And the supporters will come. The following will come. The money will come. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Or those are
yeah. I 100% agree with both of those things. I remember my mom, when I was young, had it was like a 1982 Toyota Corolla, and it had no power steering. It was like I've never known a car not to have power steering.
Right.
And I remember you couldn't steer the car if it wasn't moving. And like like mental pictures I just like latch onto, and I just remember my whole life for some reason thinking that sometimes in life we can't actually steer where we're going at all unless we just start to go. Just like, don't overthink it, Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, those are the little things I learned from Toyota Corollas. That's what, you learn from anything.
That's really, really good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use that. I hope you don't mind.
No, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you being like on here with us, and I know a lot of people are going to get fed from what you've shared with us, and I really do appreciate it. Again, we're going to put all the links for you in the notes and also to your book. Hopefully some people will check that out because it sounds great. I'll wait for my autographed copy, which I know is already in the mail, and it's a part of a trilogy. So is the middle book going to like really bring us down? Like there's going to be a lot of negative sort of struggles, and then like there's going to be, no, I don't know. That's how trilogies usually go. I don't know if it's going to be.
Right. It's definitely more of like an instructional thing rather than like a narrative thing. But I mean, if you want to look at it that way, maybe.
Yeah, right. There is struggle for sure.
Right.
But anyway, so thank you. And we'll give, again, we'll share everything about you in our notes. And again, guys, thank you for tuning into the Flipstoration Podcast, and we'll catch you next time. The Flipstoration Podcast is sponsored by Stripwell. Stripwell makes the QCS line of products. If you're looking for a furniture stripper that is safe for you, safe for your projects, and safe for the planet, then look no further than QCS Finish Remover and the QCS Surface Cleanser. That is the QCS system, and that is what you're looking for. So check it out at stripwell.com, and be sure to subscribe to the Flipstoration Podcast.